Looking back at Hogwarts Legacy and the launch of this game has been something of a referendum on J.k. Rowling herself.
Good news, everyone.
Uh-oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Searching the internet today, I come across a new article from The Atlantic on Hogwarts Legacy about the boycott that wasn't. If the public response to the game was truly a referendum on J.k. Rowling, she won. This is by Helen Lewis of The Atlantic. Came out April 2nd, 2023. This is something that's very new. So when Hogwarts released in February, the verdict of the video game was unanimous. The latest spin-off of the Harry Potter series was a heartless mess, the product of bigoted worldviews, and playing it involved an uncomfortable act of moral compromise, or at least holding the nose and reassuring yourself that J.k. Rowling was not directly involved. That, besides the course, the game is a good game. It was a very good game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. However, I still had criticisms of the game as a general, and pushing everything aside, if you look hard enough and deep enough, you will find something wrong in every single piece of video game or every single company or every single person out there. You will falter and just focus on the negative. The positives is this game was they pushed along a lot of things and made a great storyline. There was a lot of inclusivity in this game in particular. A tech magazine, Wired, gave the game a 1 out of 10 and said its real-world harms are impossible to ignore, obviously never playing the game. These were left unspecified, but let's presume the reviewer wasn't talking about the repetitive strain injury from too many spell battles. The gamer declined to review the title at all and suggested that readers should not play Hogwarts Legacy if you care about your trans friends. Well, we know recently if you are asked what your pronouns are, you get excluded and removed from tournaments in the Pokemon scene, and this is something that's continuing today. The talk and the negativity around it creates a situation where it just makes people that are LGBTQ it just seen as a bad light. It gives them a very negative name when you hear about people nonstop screaming at other people over it, over trying to claim that they don't have enough rights and trying to claim that human rights are not theirs, and when they are, everyone's human first, and then you have the trickle down effect through it. Ultimately, like the Mary Sue even alleged fan boycott in an article that began with the Potterisk incantation Accio controversy. It was ridiculous how many things came out against the author, against the game, but a lot of hardworking devs worked on this game and it brought out, and it actually worked in the game's favor because people went, oh, if you're going to talk negative like this about this game, well, just to put it to you, I'm going to buy a copy. I'm going to buy 2 copies of the game. You know what? You negatively affected this game and my way of thinking, I'm going to buy 3 copies of this game. And that was where it went. Even the walkthroughs, those helpful guides telling players on how to solve the game's puzzles and defeat bosses, carried panic disclaimers. This is the problem with the disclaimer controversies. We see this with legacy-style Dungeons and Dragons games and books where Wizards of the Coast has put this disclaimer on them, saying these games were made in a time that we don't agree with today and they don't represent our values today, but they do represent that we have money and marketing in them from the past, so we're still going to sell them and make a profit off of them. And by putting on this disclaimer, we're now going to make a profit off those that think that it's wrong. It's all a marketing gimmick when it comes down to it, and the consumer is the one that ends up paying the price. We see this with game journalists. It continues to happen today where there's some hot take that happens and a game journalist has to pick it up and market it as such. Now, when it came down to the Pokemon controversy, that thing spread like wildfire and it took a few days. And, I was very happy to say I had one of the first videos up on that controversy, and it it's proved the points of that this inclusionary and the diversity, it's just pushing along in the wrong directions. They're pushing along saying, oh, you need to do all these things extra. Well, here's the thing. With a lot of these games, especially in like Magic the Gathering, it's always been there. People didn't care. People didn't look at every negative thing that they see in the world. They looked at them and went, oh, look at this art. Look at this dragon. It's absolutely amazing. And that's where this Hogwarts game came down. The original series of the Harry Potter universe, the writings, the way the movies came out, it was fantastical. It was a fantasy-filled fun fest, and it was just enjoying it. It made you feel like a kid in a candy shop going through the Narnia door all over again, and that is why people find it enjoyable. If so, now the votes are in. J.K. Rowling wins by a landslide. The views she has expressed on Twitter and elsewhere, for instance, that women's spaces such as prisons and domestic violence shelters should be protected on the basis of biological sex rather than self-declared gender, and that some young people are rushed towards medical transition with insufficient gatekeeping are clearly not fatally repulsive to normie consumers. Now, my take on that all, honestly, you shouldn't be a minor in this situation. If your doctor suggests cutting off anything like that, it really should be thought through. There should be people, more than just one doctor, saying this should happen. Now, there is the off chance, the very few, like we're talking 0.001% of the population where this would affect. Now, and it's gone completely off the rails and is being pushed as a marketing gimmick by pharmaceuticals and by doctors just to make a couple extra dollars, and then it creates controversy, and it continues on. And this stuff, it's something I never thought I would be talking about in my lifetime. I figured that we were past all of this. I figured the experiments on people was done, and this to me seems like it's just not a fun place to try and talk about this on a regular basis. I just don't honestly like to talk about it because a lot of people get really upset about it, and a lot of people do a shouting match over it, and that doesn't help anything. It doesn't move forward. It makes those that are affected by these things, it gives them a very bad name. And that's why I generally don't want to talk about it, and why people have rejected it so much so that Hogwarts Legacy shot to the top of the charts. Now, over the first 2 weeks of the game's release, 12 million copies of the game sold. I believe at this point, they're over $1 billion sold for the game, or revenue generated from it. So putting that numbers into perspective, John Wick Chapter 4, the latest Keanu Reeves action movie franchise, had what is generally considered to be an excellent opening weekend at the box office, taking in $73.5 million. The financial success of Hogwarts Legacy is many times greater than that. It's absolutely absurdly better than that. Now, I got to say, the John Wick being the fourth movie in the franchise, still bringing in like over 70 million on a weekend, that's kind of insane for a fourth rendition of a movie. So really, what's going on in gaming media in all the spaces here? What's going on? The most obvious explanation is the emergence of the class of the internet critics who are completely out of touch with their audiences. This dynamic isn't unique to video games. In recent years, I've become a student of what I think of as the Rotten Tomatoes split. That is the gulf between critical and audience reactions to various pieces of art. Hannah Gapsy's progressive demolition of stand-up comedy Nanyetti scored 100% with the critics and just 26% with the fans for David Chappelle's The Closer, which reflects on the comedian's own experiences of being ostracized for jokes about trans issue. The reverse is true. It scored 40% with critics and 95% with audiences. My own review ambivalently Chappelle's sour anger dulled his undoubtedly gifts as a comic. And this is the divide that we continue to see in and around pop culture, in and around movies, games, and everything else like that. And you know what? I'm going to leave that article where it is. I'm going to link that article down below because it's a great article showcasing on what is going on in the pop culture space today, where people have gone, how people have reacted to everything, and how the ideologies of modernization in video games, comic books, movies are being completely rejected. Please take a look at that, and don't forget to like and subscribe today. I'm your proud Canadian Phoenix, and I will see you all next time.